What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are having a wonderful Friday so far. It's Lance here, in case you didn't know already. Of course, for the new people watching, I am a longtime member of the Abacus Group. Team Mamba is the name of my team. The Abacus Group was designed specifically for the purpose of teaching black people how to build wealth, long-term generational wealth in the stock market. I'm also co-founder of BH Capital Enterprises, where I provide some specialized knowledge in a couple of niche areas of the market, specifically the cannabis industry and charts. So I teach people how to read charts also. If you have any questions about any of my offerings, definitely hit me up. I welcome the conversation. I welcome the inquiries. I'm happy to talk to you. So what could be worse than death? Loaded question, right? That's a really pregnant question, if you ask me. From a regular person's perspective, there's probably not much in the world that's worse than dying, right? It's one of those things that many of us fear. In general, of course, not everybody uh, will necessarily admit to being afraid of death, and not everybody is, not everyone is afraid of death. But what could be worse than death? And I'm pretty sure that if we polled a bunch of people and asked them, what is the worst possible thing that could happen to you, death would probably be on top of the list. But one thing about uh, learning the stock market that really shifted the paradigm for me is how I view the world and how I view events, how I view certain things. Also, how I better manage my emotions, so I'm not swayed by you know certain emotional types of happenings throughout the world. And the truth is, uh, death is something that's certain for us all. Um, but it's still one of those things that most of us are just feel like it's probably the worst thing that could ever happen to us. But when you start to learn about the markets, you learn one of the biggest things that I've learned is that there are things that are worse than death. And when I had that epiphany, it was like my mind was blown. Because when you think about things from a business perspective and from the perspective of an investor, um, it's about profits. So anything, so in this world, um, what could be worse than death is no profits. Um, so anything that can materially affect a company's profits is seen as a negative thing to the markets, to investors. And so the market value of a company goes down typically as a result of that information. So when news started dropping about Boeing planes dropping out of the sky, and of course I don't mean to sound callous in the least bit for those that lost their lives in plane crashes and such. But even news of plane crashes did not have a significant impact on Boeing's share price. What had the impact on Boeing's share price was the 737 planes being grounded over uh, software issues, and other kinds of issues, safety issues with the plane, basically safety issues with the planes. And so because these planes were grounded, that means that Boeing isn't able to sell these planes right now. So that means that they have sitting inventory that can't be sold. So that's money being taken out of their pockets because inventory costs. It costs to have sitting inventory. And if you're not selling that, then you're not collecting any money on that inventory. So that is when the share price started to take a hit. It wasn't because of people dying or planes crashing. It wasn't because of any of that. It was when the news dropped of Boeing not being able to sell these planes. So no profits, no revenue coming in with this particular product. So investors don't like to see that. The markets don't like to see that. So there are there can be severe consequences for companies for this type of happening when you can't sell your products. Um, so what can be worse than death? No profits. And you can apply this thought process to any company, and it basically allows you, knowing the markets allows you to wade through the minefield that is news. And really, news is a bunch of propaganda. So when you're able to decipher between material news and kind of trivial news, then you're able to better manage your emotions. And the markets teach you to focus on learning how to evaluate news and also learning how to capitalize on opportunity. Um, at the end of the day, it's about building a long-term generational wealth portfolio. That's what the Abacus is all about. And so we have to be able to manage our emotions and see news for what it is, potential opportunity. Um, so, these days, knowing what I know now, I don't get caught up in arguments that present no opportunity for me. And I don't necessarily mean opportunity as in monetary. I mean opportunity as in, I also mean opportunity as in, is there an opportunity for me to learn something that I can apply later on? So yeah, man, it's been very useful, very very beneficial for me to learn about the markets. It significantly changed my life. And it seems like every day my mind is being blown by, new things that I'm learning and new things that I'm discovering. And Boeing, well, not Boeing, but Boeing is just kind of the topic, the butt of the joke, quote, so to speak, right now, because Boeing is really having a hard time and has been for like the past year. Funny how fast time goes, but um, Boeing just happens to be the subject of the conversation. Um, but when I was sitting and just thinking, not too long ago, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, what can be worse than death? No profits, man. No profits. And this is, when you think about it from a humane perspective, it's like, man, it's a sad thing. But that's capitalism. It's like you almost have to compartmentalize yourself. Like I have my human self, but then I have my capitalist self where I just want to build for myself and my family, you know? And kind of that's almost like the ambivalence and the conflict in the black community because we're so human. We are at everyone's beck and call for all other causes that benefit everyone but us. We're so emotional in our decision making, in our feelings, in what we do, what we say, how we act, how we react. We're so emotional, and I think it's a really beautiful thing, but it's not so much when you don't know how to command that, you know. don't don't allow yourself to be completely ruled by your emotions to the point to where you are reckless. Really, it's definitely, it's totally okay to be emotional, right? But there has to be other parts of you that keeps that in check, kind of reels it in when it's starting to get out of control. And so the markets did that for me. um, but that's all I have to say about this one. Hopefully it provided you guys with a little bit of perspective. And especially for my people in the black community, definitely think about ways in which you cannot be uh, controlled by your emotional nature. That's the biggie. That's the biggie. And the markets have given me that power, or allowed me to realize and harness that power. And now, for the most part, I'm no longer commanded, and I don't allow myself to be exploited because of my emotions, in this way. You know what I'm saying? So think about, if you have to, compartmentalize yourself like I have, you know, in a way, think about what may work best for you. But in this world of capitalism, death is not the worst thing. And hopefully I illustrated that pretty simply for you guys. But thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. The dream never sleeps. Shoot for whatever it is that you're shooting for. If you have questions about the Abacus or BH Capital Enterprises, any of my offerings, hit me up. I welcome the conversation.